The police officer said, wait a minute, let me hear from her. And she's obviously intoxicated. But he said, quote, did he rape you? And her response was no. Next, the first officer said, did they have sex? And she said, well, I'm not sure.
And that's what you call intoxicated. Big Ben Roethlisberger off the hook. No criminal charges will be filed against the Steelers quarterback in the wake of an allegedly unwelcome sexual encounter in a bathroom at a Georgia nightclub. Luann, Pennsylvania, your question or thought, man?
Hi, Jane. I'm a diehard Steeler fan. But as far as I'm concerned, he's a disgrace to the Steeler franchise. If it was somebody low income, I think they'd be sitting in jail right now. This man, 2 times in a row, and he talks about being, you know, a role model for children. As a parent of 3, I would never want my children to look up to him.
Well, I love your call. B.J. Bernstein, that was my big issue when we got the news conference in. Did he get a pass? Was he treated the way every other American would be treated in a similar situation?
Well, what I do think is there was a more thorough investigation here. And in fact, in most cases, as much as happened here should happen in other cases. In other words, a lot of times a woman complains, that happens at night, and then by the next day they're arresting someone. And even though we want to give credibility, you don't help a real victim by arresting quickly, and you also don't help a defendant who may not have appropriate charges against him. So I do think that his good lawyers and the attention given to the case meant good law enforcement techniques.
Didn't they have Ryan Smith? Didn't they have off-duty cops there that night hanging out with him?
Yeah, supposedly they had off-duty cops with him that were friends of his, and they were sort of backing him, going around as a crew, bar hopping with these girls. Unbelievable. You know what, Jane? We heard him talk in his press conference about, I hope you could see my true values. You know what he cares about? He cares about the NFL and his franchise and keeping his job. And his buddy, Santonio Holmes, another guy who was involved in a bar altercation, was just traded. So his perspective right now is, let me make sure my team and my city knows that I'm a good guy.
And apparently he's going to meet with the NFL commissioner, and the commissioner has the latitude to discipline him. So this is not necessarily over. And there could also be a civil lawsuit. But listen to this. The DA said these two, Roethlisberger and the woman, did not know each other before the night of the alleged assault. They met up at different bars, and they participated in conversations of a, quote, sexual nature.
Mr. Roethlisberger invited them into the VIP area where he provided shots of alcohol for them. Everyone agrees that the victim was highly intoxicated due to consuming alcohol. One of the bodyguards guided the victim down a back hallway. Mr. Roethlisberger followed her down the hallway into a small bathroom.
Booze, bodyguards, and a small bathroom. John Lusich, why would a bodyguard guide this drunk woman down a back hallway with Roethlisberger following her, and then the two of them ending up somehow in a bathroom?
Well, you know, Roethlisberger was probably behind the bodyguard, so the bodyguard couldn't see him. He was probably making sure that she got to the bathroom without hurting herself. The fact that Roethlisberger followed this girl into the bathroom, and the bodyguard, if that bodyguard saw that, he did a disservice to the player himself. I think the biggest pass, if he gets away with this, is going to come from the Steelers and the NFL, because this bringing such disgrace to his teammates who've worked so hard to achieve what they've got is the worst part of this whole story here.
Ben's attorney held a news conference after the DA was done, where he was bombarded with questions about whether Ben planned to sue the accuser. Watch this.
Fortunately, I can say my job is done. This is over, and so is the press conference. Thank you very much.
Will you be pursuing any civil action against
I'm not going to answer any questions about anything. I'm not going to answer any questions about any of those matters. My job is done.
There he is, backing out of the news conference. Fascinating. You know, Ben is currently being sued by another woman who alleges he raped her in 2008 while in Nevada for a celebrity golf event. Roethlisberger responded to that with a countersuit against that woman, calling her allegations false and vicious. So, B.J. Bernstein, are we likely to see that pattern repeated in this case? Suit, countersuit.
I'm not so sure, because the plaintiff's attorney, who's very very reputable here in Atlanta, did do this letter and really talked about this young woman wanting privacy. And when you file a lawsuit, it's anything but private. And I think the same goes for Ben. So I don't necessarily think we're going to see any more litigation out of this. And really what we need to do is, I know an issue that's really important to you, Jane, which is broader than this case, is our societies look at alcohol and what we consider fun and entertainment, and that young men, when they're in high school, drink
BJ,
too much,
let me
then
say
college,
this.
and then sports.
Is bad judgment only the province of frat boys? Women cannot make a mistake. They cannot get drunk.
No, absolutely not. And I don't think it should be
this.
open season on women either. But
and let me say this. In this letter, which I'm reading here, the lawyer says this decision does not reflect any recanting of our client's complaint, but simply a realistic personal decision as to what's in her best interest given the media.
And that's a really real concern for someone, because as all the facts and details come out and eventually people will get hold of these police reports, it may not be flattering to anyone. And the reason I'm concerned, and I think you understand this as well, that we have a society where young people, starting in high school, they binge drink, they're going out, something happens wrong.
Yeah,
it goes on to college, and then it gets worse when you add money and fame.
Yeah, but, you know, boys binge drink, girls binge drink. There shouldn't be different consequences for each. Thank you, fantastic panel. A former reality show producer.